Okay, what is up? I'm literally lit up, and for anyone who's listening, I'm like beaming ear to ear, and so is my guest. She's so gorgeous. I was literally like snooping her stories right before the podcast too, and I saw that she was like all decked out. I'm like, yes. Okay, guys, I am so excited. So I literally have Helena-Alexis Seymour. I said it right. I did it right. She is the star of Jessica Wu, which is like crazy, and I'm so excited to ask you a million questions about that. But girl, what is up? I'm so happy to have you here.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here, Kelsey. Thanks for inviting me. I'm already so pumped. And yeah, I wasn't sure if this was audio or visual. So I put a story on my Instagram like, well, I look cute, so we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You look amazing. I like you've just got the whole vibe. Like it's like a, I don't know, like it's just such a cool girl vibe. Okay, can we just chat? Like, who are you? How did you get here? How did you land a show like this? And I also want to know, like, I feel like you do your own stunts. Like, you're just so cool. Like, just like lay it all on me. Tell me all the things.
Yeah. How'd I get here? That's the question I've been asking myself this whole time since I've been alive.
Yeah.
It's actually how I got into my spiritual journey. So when I was a kid, I
Hmm.
literally, that was the question I asked my mom, like, who am I? Because
Yeah.
I was teased and bullied. I was born and raised in Cornwall, Ontario, Canada, which
Hmm.
back, like, it's not even Ottawa. I'm so grateful we did move to Ottawa later on, but there were like zero ethnics there. Just,
Yeah.
we bordered New York State, so with a lot of Native Americans, but no Black. And so I got teased a lot just for looking different. And so I was
Mm.
like, why am I being teased? It seems like these kids like know me, but I don't know who I am. But like I know who I am, like
Wow.
on the inside. And I
Yeah.
used to be a huge loner and spend a lot of time in my room playing with my Barbies. And then I guess that's how I started like meditating and diving deeper inside myself. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wait, I know who I am, but like who is this? Because I didn't choose to look this way. And I didn't choose to have my hair this way or my nose this way or whatever. So I literally asked my mom, who am I? She's like, well, you're
Mm.
Helena-Alexis. I'm like, yes, but you named me that. So you should have more answers
Yeah.
for me. And she didn't. So that's literally how I tried to understand the meaning of life and why we are all here. And through those questions, like I fell more in love with God because I discovered God from a young age and my
Yeah.
inner voice and my inner self. And that's what propelled me into learning more about spirituality and astrology and basically like learning how to communicate inwardly, which really helps me on set with my acting and Chronicles of Jessica Wu, like tying that in. It's an autistic superhero who's very introverted and has a hard time making eye contact and communicating with the outside world. So it's like, oh yeah, like I basically can relate in a huge way to this
Wow.
character. So yeah, that's how it started pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm
Wow.
really into astrology, and that's my answer to like why we're all here because you can track the sun will rise and set every day. That's a fact. So if I can understand the stars and understand our present, past, future, and our birth chart, then I'm like, okay, I was born this way. Like we came in with a blueprint. This makes life make sense.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. And it's like, okay, I love hearing your story because I feel like, so first of all, you're gorgeous. And anyone who's like listening, it's like, it's so wild because I feel like so many of these like really like shiny, bright, like cool women, because I also was like bullied all the time. And so many of like my like most successful clients also, it's like they're like the prettiest girl and the coolest girl. And yet it almost seems like everyone, not everyone, but everyone who's meant for big things has like this really almost hard beginning,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
I feel like because it's supposed to ground us. Because now I have so much compassion for like the oddball or like the one that feels like they don't fit in. Like I'm friends with everybody. Maybe it's also because I'm an Aquarius rising, and I also feel like I support the underdogs and even sports teams. Like I always go for the team that's never won a championship. I'm like, I hope they win. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it grounds us. So then we can have more compassion for other people and not, float into the sky and lose ourselves.
Yeah, like this like inflated ego, right? Like there's like
Yeah.
a humbleness.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're an Aquarius rising, so that makes so much sense because I'm a Sag, and like
Okay.
Sag and Aquarius are like BFFs, and then
Yeah.
my son is an Aquarius. Like you totally,
Wow.
you totally, and my mom was an Aquarius too. Like it's like we just like understand it's like we have to march to the beat of our own drum. We have to do things our way. And that is one of the things that I love about you is like you're in this movie, TV industry, right? You're this actress, and yet I feel like you don't conform,
Mm. Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Never did.
Yeah, can we talk about that? Like,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
yeah, like that's huge. Like, how do you do that in this industry?
Honestly, I feel maybe it's also because I grew up in the industry. Like I
Mhm.
started out in beauty pageants when I was super young and then dance recitals and like competitive dance. And then modeling and acting. My first job, I was 10 years old, booked my first commercial. So I grew up in the industry. And so I've been around it a lot and I've seen through behind the scenes. I've worked behind the scenes before and I even worked at a modeling agency in Milan, Italy behind the scenes. Like so I've seen both sides and I can see how people can lose themselves in the industry and like basically when they're on a rise, especially, then they kind of their ego overinflates and they could self-sabotage. And so
Mm,
unless you are grounded and unless you are always grateful and humble and kind to everyone and appreciate every step and every human along the way, then you will be successful. So I feel like that's basically the gift that the universe also gave me is that I have been taking it super slow on my climb, but also seeing it from all angles and witnessing all these people rise and some fall, and
yeah.
it's mental notes that I'm like, okay, well, don't do that, but do this. So
Mm.
it's basically just the way that my blueprint, my astrology was laid out for me to witness this.
Yeah, and I'm curious, do you feel like your life right now is like matching your astrology blueprint?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's why I'm obsessed with it. Like I take astrology classes online. Like my
I love
30th
it.
birthday went on a retreat to Peru and like it was an astrology retreat and crystal healing.
Mm,
And then from there I was like, oh my God, I'm so into it. Can I buy all your classes right up until master class? Like, and from there I was just like more and more and more. And then I discovered another astrologer and took all his classes. So technically I can call myself an astrologer. Like I give readings for fun. But
yeah,
like that's how obsessed into it I am because it's so accurate and I give readings to friends who some like friends of friends that I don't even know. They're just like, she's going through a hard time. Can you like come over and like just give her a little reading over tea or something? And I'm like, sure. And I just give her this reading and I don't know anything about her, but at the same time, I know everything about her.
yeah.
So yeah, it's very accurate, very.
That's so interesting. So are you into like traditional astrology or like sidereal Vedic? Like which one do you
Well,
feel?
I'm tropical, but I feel
Yeah.
like Vedic is the traditional because that's where it all came from. But it's so complicated. Like I follow this Vedic astrologer on Instagram, Sangepi. He's amazing. But like it's so different that I'm like, do I really want to study that one too when I'm trying to like perfect tropical, like one thing at a time? Because as
Yeah.
soon as you think you know something, then something else, and you're always learning in astrology. There's so many layers.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Like I'm definitely not like anywhere close to like expert or anything, but I've learned a little bit just like the planets and the houses and I went deep in like my tropical astrology and in mine it's like Sag, Leo, Cancer ascendant and there's like actress, show, like, hosting shows, all these things. And then I go into like my Vedic astrology and it's like Scorpio, Gemini, and it's like totally different. And I'm like, which one, like, which one do
Yeah,
I like more? Which
yeah.
one's, and I feel like it's like an interesting balance. Like I resonate kind of with both, but I feel like it's this really massive, like, I haven't taken a leap, like going straight into Vedic because it's like you're letting go of everything you've ever known here. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I
So I
feel
was
like you
curious.
learn both because they both make sense.
Yeah.
That's why they both are still around and people study both. Like my
Yeah.
astrologer mentor, the Leo King, he's amazing. He
Yeah.
he definitely is more tropical, but he talks about Vedic all the time.
Mm,
Because you do like you can understand both and they both can resonate with you. And the
yeah.
north and south node that came from Vedic and we use it in tropical. And I feel as long as you know your north and south node, because those are your destiny points, that's almost the most important thing you can understand about your chart. Sun, moon,
Mm,
rising, yeah, your Venus and all that stuff, but like your north and south node, like why you're here, what destiny are you trying to fulfill, and where did you come from, your south node in your past life, where it's
mm,
like, stop playing that same tune, like go towards your north node.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, tell me about I'm like, okay, so I'm curious if you want to share with us, what's your
yeah.
North Node? What
I'm
is
a
it?
yeah, north node Taurus, south node
Okay.
Scorpio.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because my mom is a Scorpio, so she reflects back to me all the things that like I came from and like where I don't need to focus so much energy on. So Scorpios are very intense, they're very mysterious and extreme, like and there's changes that happen really quick in Scorpio versus Taurus is like slow,
Yeah.
chill, enjoying nature, like enjoying good food, the slow build instead of an extreme like overnight success. Like my
Hmm.
life has basically been a slow climb, and that's my North Node because I
Yeah.
came from a Scorpio life, and maybe I did have an overnight success and then I died because Scorpio, it's like death and rebirth. And so instead of that happening, it's like, okay, take it easy, like go for walks, go for yoga, like eat good food, study something, and then you're gonna see the climb eventually happen in your success.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, so watching on the outside, like I feel like I've been watching you build this success and like Chronicles of Jessica Wu, I feel like was that the biggest thing you've like was that the biggest show you've landed, the biggest role you've landed, or is that the one you're most like excited about? Like tell me a little like was that kind of like this like holy shit big moment in your life or did it feel like a slow touristy vibe?
um, that's the first thing that I star in as the lead title character. So yes, biggest, but at the same time, I was also in big like Hollywood blockbuster movies like Birdman and Triple X3 with Vin Diesel. So like those are the biggest technically
Yeah.
because they win Oscars and things like Birdman won 5 Oscars. But for me to be the title character in something in a series, that's my biggest accomplishment.
Yeah.
So but it has been a slow build because like I've been acting since I was 10 years old and I've been moving and traveling to different places for auditions like Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver, then Los Angeles. And when I came to LA, it was like a like let me feel it out kind of vibe because when I was in Vancouver there were weird things that happened where the universe was like Vancouver's maybe not for you. It was kind of
Mm.
weird. But when I came to LA was more welcoming. And then Chronicles of Jessica Wu happened basically I was here for 2 months and then I booked it and I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, I'm supposed to be here."
Yeah.
But it wasn't like overnight, you know, it was definitely something I've been working towards my whole life.
Yeah, 100%. I love that because I
Yeah.
like people don't see that. Like they don't see everything that you're doing behind the scenes to build
Yeah.
your brand or whatever it is. Like there's even just like in my journey, like building my TikTok and things like that, there are like months where you are stagnant. It's like it's just not growing. And then all of a sudden, a viral video, thousands of followers, and people are like, oh my gosh, but it's not overnight. Like you've been showing up consistently over and over and doing the work, right?
Exactly, exactly. And there was a moment where, you know, I wasn't working that much. And so I was like, okay, well, if that's not happening right now, then what can I do to like build my resume? What skills can I learn that would just then help my future later on? So I started kickboxing. And I was like,
Mm,
I love because my dad's a former bodybuilder. So I do love working out in the gym. And I was like,
yeah.
how dope would it be to like book a role where I can do my own stunts? So I'm like, let me go start kickboxing. I've never done it before, but it looks like fun. So I started kickboxing, and my sensei was very spiritual. And I told her, I'm like, I'm trying to manifest a role where I could use my own stunts. So like, I want to stay after class, and maybe we could record some videos of me doing punches and kicks. She's like, okay, dope. 2 years later, Jessica Wu came around, and they were like, must have martial arts training to do her own stunts. And I was like, this is it,
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I mean, like, there's always a reason for everything that happens in your life. So if there's nothing happening, well, what can you do to like learn something that maybe the universe wants you to pick up? So then when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready. Because luck isn't luck, it's when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah.
it's like there's like this principle that I talk about all the time with my clients. It's like follow what feels alive. Like
Mm,
don't think in your head, just like what feels alive. And it sounds like in that moment, you weren't really thinking from your head. You're just like, I want to go do this thing. Like this is gonna bring me joy. You know what I mean? Which
exactly.
is like so like intuitive and also feminine because you're just like tapped into that flow of life that's telling you do this, go here, do this. I love
Yeah.
that, which is
Yeah.
super cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm like, because you know, like I love acting as well. I love acting. My journey was different though, because and it's funny that we're chatting because for me it was like that was a dream I always had. And then it felt like I kind of had to like let go of that and step into what God was asking me to do, which was like a path of like healing and helping people and things like that. But there's always something in my heart and soul that's like, oh, but you can be both. Like you can do both, right?
Oh,
And and it's like I don't know what it is about acting. Like, and I know I'm sure you feel the same way. Like what, like for me, like it's like a makes me feel alive, you
mhm,
know?
mhm. Yeah, that's definitely it. For me,
Like,
it's also it makes me feel alive, but it also helps me share, like, because of my childhood of bullying, that I can embody these characters and give them a voice. Like, Jessica Wu, literally, she was an introvert who didn't want to share her voice. And then she
Mhm.
became empowered through her stepfather and learning martial arts and then started like saving the world. I'm like, that's cool. Like, how awesome is it for like an autistic spectrum child to watch this and be like, wow, I can do anything,
Yeah.
and inspire the viewers. So
Yeah.
that's like what I love the most about acting is like giving these characters life and then inspiring someone that can relate to it or telling a story that probably has never been told and then someone's watching it and is like, okay, I'm not alone in this world. So for me, that's what
Yeah.
it's about.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I feel like it's so deep. There was so much spiritual transformation when you're acting because it's embodiment.
Mm.
Like you're in your body. Like if you're not in your body, you are not good at acting. Like that's period, right? So
That's
it's
exactly.
yeah, like it's just like and I don't and I'm sure like embodiment is all about like clearing out trauma. Like you cannot be in your body if you are holding on to your past and all of these things. So I feel like it's like this, and one of the emotions that I was really good at like kind of showing is like sadness because I've experienced like my mom's death and my dad's death and all these things, right? And it's like that is like embodied,
Hmm.
like processed grief that you can now like yeah, like really like bring art and emotions to the world, which is just so
Hmm.
again, it's like so beautiful and so creative. Oh, I love it. I love that that you're doing all the things. It's so cool. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
I
Yeah.
also feel that we lived our life for a reason. It's like, why did we go through these experiences? Well, probably so we can share them later, so other people can also learn from them. So we can share our story and be the healer to others that need someone that has lived this and has the wisdom to now share it, how to get through it, whether it be
Yeah.
through art or through healing. It's like we're given a certain path and destiny for a reason, and I feel like it's to help the other.
Yeah. I definitely feel that 100%. I think that that's like when we finally like obey God in a sense and we're like in service.
Hmm.
And whatever it is, like everyone's service is going to be different and like creating art is service. Like that is literally allowing God to shine through, right? It's so beautiful.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, we've got Chronicles of Jessica Wu. Okay, what are you working on now? And I want you to be real with me, okay? I'm gonna ask you some questions here, okay? Because
Yeah.
I love that you are like North Node, Taurus, slow build. But are there desires in your heart for just like fucking crazy expansion? Like, do you have like is this like be real with us?
I have Jupiter on my rising, which is literally expansion. So my rising sign, like all I want to do is expand and share and give, yes. But it squares, like it's an Aquarius, and that squares Taurus. And squares like a hard aspect where it's like, whoa, you want
Mm,
to do this, but you gotta like take it slow. So like, yes, and it also squares Saturn. So my Jupiter like wants to expand and Saturn wants to contract. And they're
yeah.
like opposing, it's like, well, what do I do? So it's like a slow build. So astrology does repeat itself. Once you learn one thing and then you check out the rest of your chart, it basically repeats itself because that's the lesson you have to learn in this life. So yeah, I
Mhm.
definitely want to expand, but my astrology is telling me to take it slow. So
Yeah.
I'm learning to try and balance the two. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what are you I'm like, I love it. And okay, so what are you working on right now? Like, what are you manifesting? Are there physical jobs you're working on right now? Yeah, yeah, I'm curious. Let's hear it.
So I would love to share it, but I
Oh, you
also
can't.
I also well it's also like I noticed that when someone shares something that they're about to do, then it doesn't
Mm,
turn out the
hmm.
way that it can, because
Yeah.
then people's energy can get into it. And it's just like someone even told me that years ago. They're like, man, every time I would share when I have an audition on Facebook, then the audition wouldn't go well. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, because their energy is now attached to it. But if you share them after the fact when it's filmed or when it's done,
Yeah.
then they have no choice but to enjoy what you put out. So
Yeah, totally.
my that's my thing. I will let you find out soon.
Okay, yeah, don't say anything. I'm like, I don't want us to ruin it.
No, no,
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I think that that's so important. It's like
yeah,
moving in silence. Um, okay. Yeah, and I guess like because acting is like there is just so many like you get jobs and then there's so much more, right? So for you and like one of the things that I love is like branding and us being like the fullest expressions of ourselves, right? So we've got the acting, we know you do modeling as well, and then there's the astrology, and it's like, again, you're an Aquarius. Like, what are all of these like facets? Like the brand, like what is it that you feel like you're here for besides just the acting and the astrology? Like, talk to us a little bit about you, your essence, you know? This is more like an interview, but it's because I just asked all the
Yeah,
questions. I'm
yeah,
just
no,
like,
it's totally cool. I'm a Gemini sun, so my birthday was June 6th, just a few weeks ago, but my rising is Aquarius and my moon is in Capricorn. And being like a double air, which we both rule humans, Geminis are the twins and Aquariuses are the people, like the water bear to
mm,
the people. So definitely it's learning to communicate a lot more, step outside my comfort zone, be a little bit of the rebellious one, speak my truth. I have my Chiron in Gemini. Do you know what Chiron, the wounded
yeah,
healer?
mine's
Yeah.
in Leo. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a wound that literally going back to what we were saying is like what we feel like the most wounded of is our greatest strength to heal other people. And having
Hmm.
mine in Gemini, it's about communication. So my wound is
Hmm.
communication. So I have to learn to communicate, and then my communication then heals the other. Yours in Leo is about shining and like owning your light and just like being the lion and roaring and sharing love. I don't know what happened in your past, but there's a trauma that you probably felt like you don't want to do that, but that's literally your gift.
Yeah.
So I'm learning to just embody the things that I want to say, sharing my truth, because when I was a child, obviously my trauma, I wasn't really invited to speak. People were speaking
Hmm.
at me instead. So yeah, just owning who I am and knowing that whenever I go out into the world just to shine my light, just to be the authentic version of me, because everyone's trying to be someone they're not, and that's a waste of time. I feel
Yeah.
like you're being a rebel when you are living authentically because there's only one you. So if you can just be you, how rebellious and cool is that? You
Yeah.
know? And then you're
Totally.
going to attract other people that see your light and see your authenticity, and they're like, I need you for this. But if you're
Hmm.
being someone else, how are they going to find you? How
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
they going to find you?
A
So,
100%. It's
yeah.
like they have like they need like your codes. Like they need what you, like they need what you've learned to embody. So I love that. It's so interesting that yours is communication because like I guess, and this actually kind of makes sense, like, you know, in a way you're communicating, you're putting yourself out there, but especially if you're doing roles, like that's not actually Helena, right? So it's like
Mhm.
Helena actually has to communicate and put herself out there and be seen, right? Which is so
Yeah.
wild. Yeah. The Chiron is an interesting thing because like for me, Leo, like I'm supposed to be seen, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it's crazy because like I'll be like in Mexico, I'll post a bikini photo and instantly it's like haters, like with like women calling me out like I broke up with my man because of you and I'm just like
Oh.
what? Like it's so crazy how like the one thing that we're supposed to do, it's like it just comes with so much like
Mhm.
density and like so many like almost like hurdles, and it's this really interesting thing where it's like I love being seen, right? And I have my Leo moon, right? So it's like
Wow.
it's almost like, and the Leo moon, one of the things that I was learning, and I think I learned this from Leo King, it was like the Leo sun, it's you want to be seen and your like your work is to allow yourself to be seen, and the Leo moon is you need to be seen.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's so interesting that like my moon is needs to be seen, and then my Chiron is like, oh shit. Right?
Exactly.
It's like such an interesting, and I think that there's almost been a little bit of me that's like, oh, there's like safety in Vedic astrology because it no longer wants me to be the Leo, and that's no longer my
Mhm.
wound. But it feels like the spiritual path is like, no, 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 step out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is it's scary and it's like it's so beautiful, and I think like I have to say that I resonate so much with like a slower path because I've done this in my work, like where I gained like tons of followers, was invited to LA, spoke in
Mhm.
front of a bunch of people were like taking photos of me, like it was like this crazy thing, and it was like this element of, especially when you're bullied as a little kid, like it's like the complete opposite paradigm, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That I got home and it was like so much love, so much praise, so much like, oh my gosh, we actually want you. That I was like, oh, I don't want it anymore. And I just dropped it. It was like too much, you know? And
Wow.
yeah, and I feel like it's like kind of like how the people, like how a lot of people will, yeah, like go. And again, I didn't even go that high, but it was like a level that my vessel was just like not accustomed to. Like again, I still had way too much like unmetabolized trauma. I'd never really processed that stuff. And it's like when you shine really big light on these things, like you need to be ready to hold the love, the audience, all the stuff, right?
Exactly.
So I did it twice. I did that whole journey twice. Again, I came back to my business, brought it up even more. I built up this like movement called the New Feminine. It was wild. Like so many people were following and joining in, tagging stories, all these things. And oddly enough, and this must have been my Chiron, somebody stole my company name,
Oh my God.
created an Instagram name, created an Instagram, said founder of New Feminine. I'm like, okay, I'm the founder. And then they like everything. And at that time, I kind of fell into like old childhood patterns of being like, I don't compete. Like you want it, take it type vibe.
Oh my
And
God.
I took myself like out of the arena, like, and I let it all go again. And I was like,
Oh,
oh. And then this time around, it's been like, we built it back up. It feels amazing. The whole like become your own dream girl, which
yeah.
is hilarious that you and I are chatting because part of my dream girl is she's a freaking actress and things. So that's like going to come back. But, because you have to be all facets of yourself. Like I can't teach become your own dream girl, but I'm not being my own dream girl. It's like
Exactly.
doesn't make
Exactly.
sense. But this time around, it's been slow on
Mm,
purpose.
good.
Like I've been like allowing it to grow. I haven't been pushing beyond, and I've just been like opening my capacity for all of it, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And it feels
Yes.
good. It feels better, honestly.
Yes. And I feel like you're, like you were saying, you have to be able to hold the light that comes with it. And I feel like that's what the slow and steady pace allows you to also do. And for everyone that's on their journey, it's like maybe some people can skyrocket, but then they're also able to hold the light faster. So, like
Yeah.
with every level, you have to be able to handle that energy, because if you can't, like those overnight successes, they rise too fast and then they don't know what to do with it and then they fall. But if you're slowly building yourself up and slowly gaining the confidence and slowly like expanding your aura and your light, well, then the rise will be a lot smoother and you'll be able to sustain it. So
Yeah.
it's great that you're able to do that now.
Yeah, it feels so good. And it honestly feels it's like less sexy,
Mhm.
but it's like more mature and it feels like higher, I'm like super into feminine stuff. It's like higher archetype of feminine. It's like the
Yeah.
queen. Like,
Yes.
she's not here for like some sort of like overnight, I want to be a star type thing. She's here to like be in her purpose, be in her service, and to just like grow. And I feel like I'm just constantly collecting like data,
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of like what you were saying, like feedback. And it's like, okay, now I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And it's just,
Hmm.
I feel like that's the path to like consistently, like sustainably, like sustainable success to
Yeah.
last a lifetime versus like, because I don't know, like I see all these TikTok stars go up,
Yeah.
gone, like literally, right? Like within
Mm.
weeks. And it's like, holy, like that is not what I think God has for you. That is not what God, like, that doesn't feel like the path, you know?
No. And I feel like you have so many gifts that you're like learning about and you're sharing and you're mentoring and yes, acting, and maybe eventually it'll all come together. Like
Yeah.
my acting, my yoga, my astrology, and everything else that I've been, dabbling into, maybe that will also come together. And maybe you'll have your own show, Kelsey, where you're going to
Yeah.
be like an Oprah and you're going to be like doing healing sessions on stage, or who knows, like the spiritual world is kind of taking over multimedia. And so maybe this is like basically preparing you. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, I have all this like television experience in my back pocket and all of this like divine feminine, like healing energy that I share with the world. And then they come together, and then you're like with your own show on
Yeah.
Netflix or HBO or something, or
Yeah.
Apple
Yeah.
TV.
Which
Yeah.
is like so crazy that you say that because when I was little, I used to always say everyone's gonna know me. Like it's gonna be like Kelsey, just like Oprah. Like everyone's gonna know my name, just like Oprah. That used to be my
Yeah.
thing, you know? And my
I,
whole thing is like I love Princess Di. I feel like it's gonna be like Princess Di, like that's the vibe. Like we're just here to like love people and like do all the
yes.
things and be
Yes.
ourselves, right?
Exactly. And love
Yeah,
people. I love that. That's literally why we're here. We're here to
yeah,
love ourselves and others. That's it.
yeah.
Give more love.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so cool. I feel like people are listening and I'm like, I have to plug in my phone, so we're just gonna move this over. And everyone loves my podcast because it's like so real and I'm just like, yeah, we're not
Love
we're
that.
not doing
It's
and now I'm gonna have to turn this over. It's okay. It's all good. Worst case, we'll figure this out. I'm so sorry. Usually I've been on so many calls today. It's been wild. Yeah, I love it. And I love that you get this, you know, and I think like, would you say, because I do feel like there's a massive shift in the world, like we are seeing, I feel like everyone understands the same lingo now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's like an awakening. Everybody understands trauma and being conscious and, you know, emotional regulation. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like for yourself 5 years ago, you probably felt very different from,
Oh,
you know,
oh yeah,
right?
definitely. I I feel like what year was that? Like 2019? 5 years ago, we always feel like we're super ready and we're like the best versions of ourselves. But now that I
Yeah.
reflect back, I'm like, self-love was definitely like what I was learning more of.
Yeah.
And I did go 6 years prior to that. I met someone in 2019 or 2020. But 6 years prior to that, I wasn't dating anyone. I wasn't
Mm,
up with anyone. I was celibate for 6 years because I was like, no, I'm like doing me and I'm gonna like make sure that I love myself and like I've healed aspects in myself and like I was doing everything possible. Not with the intention of not going on dates, but just there was no one that met me at the level of my ex. So I was like, I'm not going to downgrade. I'm just going to continue to elevate. And then in
yeah.
2020, I did meet someone and they just they ripped me a new one, let's just say.
Mm,
It wasn't, and I didn't choose. It was just there was a connection, but it wasn't like someone that I even saw because you just have feelings when you meet people. You're like, I know this is going to work out, or I know this is not going to work out. But at the same time, God brought you together, and there's some energy that you're like, but you have a message for me, and I know that I need to learn it, and it's not going to
mm,
be easy. And that's what this person brought me. And so
yeah.
5 years ago, I was learning self love through these reflections of these relationships.
Yeah.
And I thought I was learning that from like 2015 and on, but apparently until you like practice it in a relationship, you don't know what
Oh,
you learned.
oh my gosh. Like this is like every single woman when they come and work with me, they're like, I've been doing so much healing. And then I'm like, have you been dating? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, great. Let's like open that up and see what's actually there because until he's in front of you,
Yeah.
you like there's no anxious attachment, there's no insecurities, there's no jealousy, there's no nothing unless they're in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Which is so beautiful. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I'm like driving, I'm going crazy. Anyone listening? I'm like, I'm just trying to get my tribe on the right place. Okay. Yeah, that is like a huge thing. That is like
Yeah.
self-love practice to the max. I
Yeah.
think that that is when you said 2019, 2020, you met somebody.
2020. Yeah.
There was a huge like spiritual awakening at that time. It's like everybody either broke up, got together, and just went through like massive, massive awakening.
Mm.
And it's still going, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's interesting that you had to go through that, but I mean, all of my biggest like my current partner, my man, oh my gosh, the stuff that we've been through, like it's like just constant, deepest healing I've ever been in, ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
before we met, I was like dating men and just going out and whatever. And at one point I was like, oh my gosh, God, like no more lessons from this. Like I'm done. You know, like I'm done. Like, can we learn through girlfriends? And then it was like, oh my gosh. And then I would have girlfriends do crazy things to me. And I'm just like, okay, obviously we have to learn, like go through our spiritual ascension in relationship.
Yes. Exactly. Because we won't see it reflected back to us. And
Hmm.
everything is a reflection of our inner world. So if anyone triggers you on the outside, they're basically trying to point something out that we need to heal within ourselves. You can't ever really point the finger ever because they're showing you things that you need to kind of adjust, or they're showing you areas where you're shining and glowing. So
Yeah.
either way, it's always about us and always about
Oh,
loving ourselves on a deeper level.
yeah. And it's like, it's so, that's like the biggest thing. Like I feel that women have to work through is, and then I love that we're talking about this, is like understanding the creational power of the feminine. Like, and the feminine within all, because men have the feminine within themselves as well too, right? But it's like the feminine within us, like that is the creational engine of the entire system.
Mhm.
So like we're literally creating our relationship. We're literally like birthing the men that we're in relationship with, which is
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
it's like it's always coming, like he's showing you something and you're like, oh dang, like is this just like a old pattern or father wound? It's like it can be challenging, which
Yes.
I'm curious. I'm like, okay, are you still in LA right now?
Yes.
Okay, how's that scene of relationships there?
Well, 2020, I met someone. He wasn't from LA, but he was living here. He was my neighbor. He's from Boston. And then
Okay.
when we broke up, because I was so harsh, then my other neighbor who lived down the hall from me, go figure. It's funny because we meet people and like sometimes they're right in our face. Because this
Yeah.
neighbor was literally 5 doors down, and I had seen him like a year ago, but he never saw me. He's like,
Mm,
"Oh, when'd you move in here?" I'm like, "I've been here for a year." I remember I was in the hot tub with him and he was sitting right next to me and he didn't see me
wow.
until
Wow.
like a year later. Then I don't know what
Chills.
dimension he finally matched me in. And then we're like, "Hi, how are you?"
Crazy.
So,
Yeah.
and he's born and raised in LA. He's the only guy from LA that I dated. And then there was someone else like, so the relationships here, it depends. Like, I feel like you attract specific relationships for what you're going through because feminines are ruled by Venus and Venus is about attraction. So whatever you need, you're going to attract. Because I can have my perspective is guys here are great because I've experienced, they're pretty great, from
Yeah.
my experience. The first one, yeah, he ripped me a new one, but it was positive. It was like a positive like lesson that I learned from him.
Yeah.
But then you have other women that are like, oh no, they're all horrible. I was like, well, you're calling that in. If you say they're horrible, you're going to meet all of them. You're going to meet all the horrible ones. So I feel like, there's someone for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's about what are you attracting as the feminine, as the Venus? Like, what are you calling in? What lessons do you need to learn? Or what are you so grateful and glowing and happy about that he's going to reflect all of that amazing magic back to you? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. We're like speaking the same language, just using different wording, right? Like that's like feminine, like magnetism. And ultimately that is like you're being your own dream girl, quote unquote. You're being the woman that you're here to be, right?
Mhm.
So if you're in love with yourself, like you're only gonna have a man who's completely and utterly like you're his dream girl. He's completely in love with you because you love you so much, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, which is so cool. And I feel like yeah, I mean, I totally believe like we all just have I mean, I don't know. Like I think that there is someone that we're meant to walk the earth with. Like that's my belief. Like there's like a person, right? Like that and we've walked with them since the beginning of time. Like I do
Agreed,
believe that,
agreed.
right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
astrology share that, like astrology can prove that. If you do your synastry chart or your composite chart, you can see the similarities. You could even look at your parents' chart and see
Mm,
like how your parents basically have similar aspects in your chart. And then even like I did this with someone, I looked at my parents' chart and then I looked at his chart and I was like, oh, I see aspects even in my parents in him. And I'm like, so
oh,
you are also like sharing lessons and energies from them that I'm also still learning through you. So
crazy.
it's like I feel
Wow.
like we were meant to be with someone and that it's already pre-written. It's a matter of us just adjusting and healing and growing until they finally show up on the same dimensional frequency as us.
Yeah, I love that you actually experienced that because I totally believe like everybody's walking around in their own dimension and
Yeah.
it's like God was almost just like like shielding you from him until he was like ready,
Yeah,
or until
it's
you were ready, right?
crazy though. Yeah. And I live on
Mhm.
like a corner unit, so I see people like walking into my building and out, and I'd see them all the time. I'm like, dude,
Wow.
how can you not? You can't see me?
Yeah, like I
Like,
know. Yeah, there's like
really?
no way.
I needed, there was one time where I had to take a picture of myself for this audition, just a snapshot. So I was like looking around, like, who can take my picture? And he was walking down the hall, and I was like, excuse me. And he didn't
Yeah,
see me. He didn't see me. He
crazy.
kept walking. It wasn't flinch like he ignored me. He like literally didn't see me. So I'm
Wow.
like, okay, all
You're
right.
like, oh, you're like, I don't know what lesson this is, but
A year later, he couldn't stop seeing me though. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, timing, divine timing. Yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, and I think that I love that because it really just does prove like we create our reality. Like, because LA has a really interesting energy to it,
Mhm.
right? Like, there's so much creativity and art, and like West Coast vibes are so different from East Coast. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And there's such like a cool I love West Coast, like there's such a cool energy there, and it's just really interesting. And then when you go to LA, I feel like there's like this really big, I don't want to say gap, but there's like truly like crazy, like authentic artist type people. And then I feel like there's like a whole other group of people who are maybe a little bit more lost, like in the inauthenticity, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just like there's like really these kind of have you ever been to Tulum?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Tulum is like very similar to LA in the sense that there's like either like the most like authentic, spiritual, just like really grounded, you're like you meet them and like chills all over and you're like, okay, cool.
Mhm.
Or there's like what you'd call like the Tilluminati. And they're like it's like an energy of like wanting to be spiritual, but not yet spiritual, and like all in white. And like it's just this there's like these really polarizing energies there, and it's like a portal of transformation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like LA is like that too.
Well, yeah. I feel like people try to fit in by
Mhm.
being that outer visual of what they think it should be
Yeah.
versus it coming from the inside out, which makes it
Mhm.
authentic. And you see that in the entertainment industry, no matter where you
Mhm.
go. It's like people like make small talk and like, oh my God, did you see the award show? Like she was so great in that movie and blah blah. I was like, let's be real. Like let's just talk real stuff. Like what's your
Yeah.
zodiac sign? When I go to events, like I don't talk business or talk movies. I'm like, so are you a Cancer? And I would just start guessing people's signs and like make it real because
Yeah.
like we talk about fluff all the time. Like we don't like let's not talk about that stuff. Let's not talk about the industry. Let's just talk about the human in us. And like if a movie comes up, then okay, we can talk about the industry.
Yeah.
But I'm about like learning the human side of us. So
Yeah.
I and it's everywhere. I feel like in
Oh,
every industry, people like fake it till you make it, or they're like
yeah.
living from the inside out.
Yeah, 100%. It's in the coaching, it's every single the online space everywhere.
Mhm.
So that is like something that I'm gonna be so like real and raw with. That's been my biggest challenge. So like in some ways, like if you see me online, like and a lot of my clients work with me because they're like, you're so real, you're so yourself, you're so all these things.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I love you because like you're in an industry where and I know casting directors say, oh well, you can't have tattoos, you can't have this, you can't have your hair like that, you can't have your nail, like I saw you got like the coolest nails, right? Like I love nails like that, like I've got mine, this one broke, so I'm like just the
Oh.
I have to, I have to go tomorrow to fix it. But it's like, and I remember like you can't have those nails, you can't do this, and I was like, okay, you can't go take off your nails every single time you have an audition, like or a self tape, like that's just right, like so there's a kind of like all these rules. And what I love about you is like you're not fitting in them at all, you know?
Break the rules.
Yeah, and but
I'm not. Even if I try to be normal, I still don't get the job because they're like, there's something inauthentic about her. She's not booking this. And it's like, okay,
Mhm.
exactly. So let's just be authentic. My hair is bigger than my body. My nails are longer than everything. Like, I don't care. This is
Yeah.
me. And so people are starting to really be like, oh, okay, yeah, she's cool. Let's book her for this. Let's book her for that. Because I'm just being myself. I'm not going
Mhm.
to ever like the way that I look, just like my face in general. I feel like my eyes are like bigger than a lot of the average person. So like my hair has to be just as big to balance everything out.
First of all,
So
you're, like, absolutely gorgeous, but yeah, like, you do have
thank
these
you.
beautiful, like, cat smoky eyes and the hair, like, guys, you have to watch the video of this because 'cause you're just gonna be
Thank
like,
you.
"Wow."
But I mean, like, I never will try and look normal because I tried and it didn't work. So it's like, let me just be myself.
Yeah,
And there's always going to be someone on the TV show or in the movie that just is a little bit on the like the girl not next door but around the corner looking. And that's me. Like we all
yeah,
need one. The one
yeah,
that be like, who is she? I'll be that
yeah,
girl. So yeah,
100%.
just being yourself, and then again, your people will find you. Stop like
Yeah,
trying to pretend to be someone you're not, and
yeah.
then let the universe bring the right people to you.
Yeah, and it's like that's like the biggest message that I feel like I'm constantly sharing all the time, and it's the reason why I'm in like an oversized shirt today because I'm like,
Yeah,
this is what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? And
great.
it's like,
Yeah.
and I love it, and like this is so me, but it's like I feel like it's really challenging for people, and I wonder like, do you feel? Because for myself, being kind of like outcasted as a kid made it easier as an adult to be like, yeah, I'm gonna have fucking neck tattoos. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I feel like that's also it because I never did fit in. I was always being teased even when I looked normal. So
Mhm.
why not just embrace it? And if I'm going to
Yeah.
stand out, just give them something to look at. You know, like
Mhm.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
live my life the way that I want to live it because you're going to
Yeah.
look at ways. So I'm
Yeah.
going to enjoy myself and love myself and dress however I want to dress, whatever makes me happy, because that's all I'm going to come home to at the end of the day is myself.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like you've tapped into such a deep code here, and it's like I feel like I'm always like, especially my girls who come and work with me for, because they can come and work with me for love or for business, okay? Like these are the things. And not just like business, like you want to be like TikTok famous, you want to build a brand, you want to create a clothing line, like some of them are like musicians, like it's like cool stuff, right? Like they want to do something.
Yeah.
And I love it. And a lot of them also want to be like healers, like have like a little healing business while they're like doing whatever, they're crochet and all this cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like this is the biggest kind of challenge is that they sit here and they go, okay, I want to be with the guy, or I want to make the money, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, but it's not going to want me if I'm doing blank.
Mm.
Right. And this is why I feel like you've cracked a code because you're sitting in LA wanting to build a career in an industry that can at times be like, no, you have to have natural hair color, you have to have this, you can't have nails, you can't have tattoos, you can't have all these things. And a lot of people that come and work with me, they are the type to go, okay, then I'm not going to do this thing so I can have this.
Mm.
And they're self-abandoning, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to post a booty picture because men nowadays don't like girls who post their booties online, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
we know like your man is going to love you because you're like doing whatever you're here to, like, again, what's like actually authentic. Like there are some girls that are like here to twerk online, like we can't even take that away from them, like that's literally what they're like so good at, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like that's her code, like that's her true self, right?
Exactly.
So I feel like you've cracked this code where you're like, I'm Helena, like this is who I am, whether you want me or not.
Exactly. Absolutely. I was nervous to post bikini pictures, like going back actually 5 years ago. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I feel confident. Like I've been doing my yoga, I've been going for runs, like I've been kickboxing. Like I feel confident and great. And it's taken me years to feel this confident and great. I'm gonna post it. And then people
Yeah,
were like, oh, and like liking it. I'm like, I don't really care about the likes, but I'm like, I'm
yeah,
surprised people didn't start commenting like negative things, what I'm used to.
yeah,
You should
yeah.
work on this or you're I was like, no,
Mm,
I feel good. I'm gonna post it. I
yeah,
started pole dancing again. I used to pole dance like
yeah,
training 10 years ago. And
yeah.
then I stopped for a bit and then I got back into it a week ago. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna post a video. Uh-oh. Like, I don't know what people are gonna say, but I feel good about it, so I'm gonna post it. And
Yeah,
so that's my code. Like, that's how I am. So I'm just
yeah,
going to share whatever makes me happy. And honestly, like, whoever is going to appreciate it, there's going to be at least one person, and maybe they're gonna be like, wow, if she's confident to do that, I can do that too. And that's the one person that was supposed to connect with it. I don't need a
yeah.
hundred people to connect. I needed that one person to get it.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. It's so good. I also love pole dancing. It's like so fun.
Yes.
It's so fun.
Fun.
It's like super intensely like hard
Yes.
too, but it's like
Like
so
so
fun.
much arm strength. So much arm
Right?
strength. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also like makes me feel like not such a baby because like like your legs get like stuck in the pole and like you're all like bruised up and I'm just like toughen up, buttercup. Like
Yeah. It needs to be an Olympic sport. Like it's actually very challenging. And I have such
yeah.
respect for pole dancers. Like
Oh
it's
my gosh.
an art.
Yeah, it truly is. And it was like one of those things that when I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's just, it's also again embodiment. Like when you're in your body and dancing and yoga, like all of these things are so beautiful for women. And I honestly feel like I'm just like analyzing you right now too, which I'm like, I hope that's okay. But like, I really do feel like because again, one of the things, okay, when I first started my acting classes, one of my girlfriends, she had been like acting in Ottawa and she was saying how like it helped her like process all these different things like because it was just like putting you so in your body. And I've always been really spiritual too, and like I loved acting, I wanted a career there, and I'm like, oh, like plus something that's going to actually like help me deepen my spirituality and get to know myself more, which that's like one of the really big things that I love, like reading about actors who are they're constantly learning about the world, constantly educating themselves. Like you just need to know so many things and do so many things. And there was so much embodiment in the classes, and I feel like because you've got the feminine codes, you got the self-love codes, you got the being yourself codes, like you got the codes, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
really do. And I wonder if it is because like since you were so little, like it's just like you've been in your body, which is like that's where the true self is. Like it's not in your head, it's in your body,
yeah.
you know?
And
It's like
Taurus rules the body, which is my north node. So
mm,
my whole journey in this life is to be in my body and to learn
mm,
how to be grounded in this body on earth. That's why Taurus is also about the simple things like food, like nature and grounding and like walking and like the basics of life. And
yeah.
that's what I needed to learn in this life. So then I can grow on a slow and steady level and stay rooted because the deeper the roots, the higher you rise. And
Hmm.
Taurus is the slowest sign because it's when you have spring and you plant the seed and the flower grows and the flower grows slowly. It doesn't grow overnight. So that's literally my whole life mission. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I'm like, gosh, man, my North Node's in Capricorn. I'm just like,
Is it?
wait,
That's a
yeah,
that's a building one too though. It's another earth sign, but it's building and it's the mountain
yeah.
goat that gets to the top of the mountain. It's guaranteed to reach the top, but it is a
Mm.
slow climb at the same time.
Yeah, it's and that's what it feels like some days. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like there are days where I'm just like like today I was like podcast, and then like talking to my assistant, like trying to get her to do things and editing things and going. And it's like I'm also manifesting generator. Okay, what's your human
Me
design?
too. Me too.
Okay.
Manifesting generator 5-1.
Okay, me too. I'm 5'1"
Oh,
too.
wow. I
That's
love that.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that's like this makes so much sense because like we're like all the things. We need to do lots of things. And I don't feel it's so funny because I have this like interesting kind of like internal conflict where I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. And like I just want to watch TV. And then there's another aspect of me that's like, if I don't exert all my energy,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Right?
Same. Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
yeah, it's like this like total like there's like literally like this like it's like the feminine inside of me is like I just want to like lie down and do nothing.
And then you
Like
get a burst of energy at 8 p.m. You're like, should I go for a run? Ah.
yeah, yeah, like I got to do this thing and I can film this and I can do this and it's
Yeah.
like oh my gosh, and my man's a projector and I like yesterday he was napping and I woke up and I was like I sent him like 10 screenshots from my clients yesterday because they were all having
Yeah.
breakthroughs. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, I'm going to yoga. I don't want and all these things. And he was just like messaging me. He's like, I'm so tired. Like it's like for him, it's like so intense. He's just like so chill. Like he
Yeah.
needs a nap. Like he like runs like all of his employees. Like he, he's got like he can rest. And then me, I'm just like
Yeah. 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 But we balance
so,
each other out. Like you balance them out, probably.
yeah.
And you do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. This feels like such a beautiful completion. I feel like we totally could have talked about the 5-1 because the 5 is like super interesting in human design. Um, like in the sense where like you're the heretic and like people project. I'm like, I am curious about that. Have you had like a lot of projection onto you? Like, has that been your experience so far with your human design? And then we can like kind of close this out.
Um, I feel like it's always been since like the bullying from a kid and the projection and like people picking on me and things like that and showing their insecurities and making me feel like, do I have that? Like, what's wrong with me? Which makes
Yeah.
me then go inward. So I feel like that's something that I've been learning my entire life. So yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's empowering too, because then you do go inwards and you do ask yourself the questions and you're like, well, wait, no, or let me work on this part of me. So like everything is a reflection back to us. So whatever people are projecting or whatever they're mirroring back to us, it's just an invitation for us to go in and ask questions and empower ourselves even more.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you're talking, I'm realizing like again, I had a very similar experience too, just like constantly being bullied all the time as a little girl. And I internalized it and thought that there was something wrong with me for such a long time. And it really did affect like my confidence and my self-esteem.
Mm.
And then over the years, I started to like learn about my human design, and I started to learn that people either like project like they pedestal you,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And then you make one mistake and they villainize you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or they just villainize you right off the bat.
yeah, yeah,
And I've always been that type of person that's like they either love me or like they completely like they hate me.
yeah,
And I feel like one of, like, the ways that I've, like, protected myself has been to be, like, really vulnerable and really humble. That
Mm,
way, it's like I'm not being pedestaled. It's like, "No, I'm human. I make mistakes. My business isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. My relationship" like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So it, like, takes away that kind of projection, but in the what you were saying, how, like, we have to take it in and listen to it, it's like, when they're villainizing you, that's not
Well, no.
you,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But then at the same time, when they're pedestaling you, like, we can't take that in either,
No.
right?
No. Exactly. Hmm.
Which is, like, challenging because I think that most people want to take in the praise, the love, all these things, but
Yeah.
that's not really healthy either,
No.
right?
I had a relationship that did that with me.
Mm,
And once it got real, because we started dating when there were a lot of events going on in my life. And so he was like, wow, we're going here next. We're going to that. Wow. And just like, I remember we were on a walk and he was just looking at me like this. I'm like, what? He's like, oh, just looking at you. I'm like, he's more like fanboying over me than like
mm,
being in a relationship with me. So then when things got real and things calmed down and like there weren't many events and like I took out my extensions, he was like, "Oh, wait, who is this?" I'm like, "This is
yeah,
still me." And then we broke
yeah,
up
yeah,
because he had
yeah.
me out here. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. That has been my experience before I met my man. That has been my experience with every single man that I dated because it's like they would see me as this, like, pretty shiny
yeah,
thing, whatever.
yeah,
And then I'm like polymath, philosopher, like I love like all these cool things and all this stuff. And it was just
yeah,
like almost like one of the boys because for
yeah,
so long, like I wasn't now I'm a girl's girl, but for a
yeah,
long time I was like, I'm into all these cool things, right? And it was just like this image that they had of me just like crumbled
yeah,
and then boom, gone.
yeah.
Oh
It
my
was their own
gosh.
vision. It was their own perspective. It's like they created the fantasy in their head of who you are instead of
Yeah.
getting to know the deep version of you from a soul level, you
Yeah.
know, which just
Yeah.
shows that they were living in their ego also. Like maybe
True.
they didn't understand who they were on a deep level and they don't want to, and they just want to have everything surface. So,
Mm,
well,
yeah.
on to the next one.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's no shortage. But it's like it's an interesting experience, and I do now I'm gonna like start like kind of studying and seeing like who else has 5-1 profiles because I wonder if it's kind of like a bullying type like
Mm-hmm.
energy that just calls it in, you know? Like I'm gonna like
Yeah,
go on a little investigation.
yeah. Well, the Leo King's a 5-1.
Oh
Next
yeah.
Saturn.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
he's the perfect example. People
Yeah.
like when they study with him, they learn from him and then they take. And then they hate
Mm,
on him, but then at the same time as they hate on him, they take from him. And then they
mm,
create their own profile. He talks about it all the time. He's like, it's tough being
interesting.
a 5-1, but this is what I'm here to do. And he continues
Yeah.
to shine his light no matter what.
Yeah, and he does shine for sure, very, very shiny, and he's had, like, some I've seen some videos, like, women going to his house thinking they're his twin flame. It's, like, crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's that, right? Like, her, like, just, like, being projecting yeah, that's so
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so Leo King
Yeah.
and you and I were all 5-1s. I love
Oh,
it, that's so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, okay, is there, like, anything else? I feel like we could just, like, hang out and talk if ever I come I'm like, I feel like we could just talk forever, is there anything like, people are listening. Is there something that you really want to say or really want them to know or hear? Like, are there any little kind of last things?
Just continue to live your life authentically. Like, you think people can't see through the facade that you put out? People can see through it. Just be
Mm,
your true self. Don't hide behind anything. There's no point. And I heard this great quote from a Kundalini teacher the other day. She's like, the only thing people can take from you is notes.
mm. I love that. I love that. Chills. I love
Like,
that. That's so good.
I'll just leave you with that.
Yeah, you're amazing. So, like everyone, you guys can go watch. You need to go. I'll put like your
DB,
IMBD. That's
IMDb.
okay. I'm like confused because do you know the artist IMDBDM or whatever?
No?
Okay, I'm gonna send her to you. You would like literally, you're gonna love her. Honestly, she's so cool. She reminds me of you a little bit.
Okay.
She's just like so like out there, so cool. I
Yeah.
am DBD. That's her thing. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I will put all your Instagram, all of your socials.
Thank
Guys,
you.
go give her a follow. Like honestly, just you've got the vibe, you've got the codes. This was just so fun, honestly.
I'm so grateful you had me, Kelsey. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. And thank you for everyone who's listening. Oh, we love you so much.
Mhm.